What is up, everyone? It's Quinn here, and in today's video, I'm going to be going through my Week 6 top 18 tight end rankings. I know the position has kind of been rough to start off the season. Hopefully, this video helps you guys go out and feel confident in setting your lineups. I've already gone through my running back, wide receiver, quarterback, and defense rankings for this week, so check those out if you haven't seen them already after this one. But let's just dive right into Tier 1 here. I have 3 Tier 1 tight ends. It's going to be George Kittle, Brock Bowers, and Trey McBride. For George Kittle here, he is the tight end 1 in points per game on the season, averaging 15.9 PPR points per game. I don't know if he's going to maintain this pace. There are going to be big games from Debo, Ayuk, where Kittle's going to be the odd man out. Maybe the production, fades off a little bit once we get CMC back, super involved as a pass catcher. But I feel like at this point, you just have to ride the hot hand. He's going to be my tight end 1. Then my tight end 2 is going to be Brock Bowers. And I think Bowers has a real shot to be the tight end 1 overall, the tight end 1 rest of season. He's coming off his best game, was targeted 12 times, caught 8 of those for 97 yards and a touchdown. Probably should have had another touchdown, but Gardner Minshew overthrew him, and it turned into a pick 6. But Bowers has been super impressive. The quarterback play is always going to be a question mark, but with Devontae Adams likely out the door, the volume's going to be there. He could be the number 1 target on this team rest of season. The talent is clearly there through 5 weeks. I think you should be feeling very good if you have Brock Bowers on your roster. And then the final tier 1 tight end is going to be Trey McBride. He hasn't necessarily had like a monster start to the season, hasn't had a huge game, but he is currently tied as the number 1 tight end in targets per game. So he's getting involved. The volume's been there. I believe the talent's there also. I think he should be better moving forward. And then shifting into tier 2, kind of an interesting mix here. I'm going with Jake Ferguson as my tight end 4. He's had a strong start to the season. He's actually the tight end 4 in points per game here through 5 weeks. I think this Cowboys offense will have a fine time passing on this Lions defense. So I think he belongs here, somewhere in tier 2. Then I have Tucker Kraft. Definitely a massive riser of the last couple of weeks. Week 1, the usage was really strong. Week 2, week 3, they kind of shifted back to a 2-headed committee here with Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. Then in week 4, we saw Tucker Kraft kind of really take over as the clear tight end 1, put up 17.3 PPR points. Then in week 5, even though Luke Musgrave was not active for this game, the usage really didn't change a ton from week 4 to week 5, so I wouldn't be super concerned about that. But he went out, dropped 24.8 PPR points, got into the end zone twice. Even if maybe they thought they were going to go back to a split with, him and Luke Musgrave, I don't know how you don't look at what he's done over the last couple of weeks and just stick with him here as the clear tight end 1. So I feel like you have to feel pretty good about Tucker Kraft at this point. And then the other guy in this tier, kind of in an opposite situation. You have Sam Laporta, who was super impressive last year as a rookie, like insane fantasy production out of a rookie tight end. And he's just been rough this year, 6.7 points per game. So I think heading into the year, a lot of people would have expected, including myself, that he'd be in tier 1, like locked in at this point. Through, 5 weeks of the season, he doesn't even belong in tier 2. But I think we have to give him a little bit of grace here. Slow start to the season. He can still turn it around. Obviously, he's delivered solid production, in 2023. So I think he'll be fine. I don't really think he's probably going to be living up to his ADP rest of season. Maybe the emergence of a wide receiver 2 in Jameson Williams has kind of stunted his upside, but I still think he's going to be playable moving forward. And then shifting into tier 3, going to start off this tier with Dallas Goedert. He's the tight end 2 in points per game on the season, so maybe you make the argument he should be higher. In my opinion, a lot of that was just due to A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith being out of the lineup. He had like the one monster game when at least A.J. Brown was out. It might have been also the game where Devonta Smith left with a concussion. But I feel like he kind of is what he is. He's not going to be a super high ceiling guy over an entire season. He'll have a fine floor, a fine weekly floor. Just this year with how the tight ends have played out, he's ranked higher than I would have expected. But in terms of like my expectation for him individually, pretty in line with where he was drafted. Also in tier 3, I have Dalton Kincaid, and this might seem low for some people. It seems like, certain rankings, certain projections on fantasy sites, Dalton Kincaid gets like penciled in like he is still one of like the top tight end options, and I just don't see it. He's averaging 7.5 PPR points per game. He's not getting an elite route participation. He's averaging 4.5 targets per game. Like the Bills are not treating him like he's some sort of stud weapon that they really want to get involved. They're just not. Like he's being treated like a solid tight end, but they're not trying to get him out there for an 100% route participation. They're not trying to force feed him. And on a roster that's fairly weak in the wide receiver room, that's somewhat concerning because it's not like he's on the Texans with Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, and he's not getting involved. Like, they're not making him a focal point with Khalil Shakir, a rookie Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, like Mac Hollins, right? So at this point, I'm not overly high on Kincaid. This is not a great matchup here against the Jets. He's obviously startable as like a tight end one on a good offense paired with Josh Allen, but in terms of like living up to his ADP, definitely doesn't seem like it's going to happen. After Kincaid, going with Evan Ingram here, it does look like he's going to be returning this week. I think his upside is capped with Christian Kirk healthy. He went on the tear towards the end of last year, but I think a lot of that was due to the volume he was getting with Christian Kirk out of the lineup. But still, fine offense. He'll be fine as like a back end tight end one play. Then I have Pat Freiermuth. He is currently the tight end 9 in points per game. Have him ranked as my tight end 10. He's the number 2 target on the Steelers team. It's not a great offense, not a super explosive passing attack, but certainly playable in your tight end spot. After Freiermuth, I have Cole Kmet as my tight end 11. I like the matchup here against the Jaguars. I think this Bears offense can put up points. After starting the season in like a weird tight end split, tight end committee with Gerald Everett, he's really emerged as a clear tight end 1 here. I think it was week 3, he had the monster game. Hasn't done a ton over the last couple of weeks. I think he'll be fine as like a fringe tight end 1 play. Obviously not the best like weekly option, but it's kind of just the area we're at here at the tight end position. Still someone who's running a decent amount of routes in a good matchup with a quarterback who seems to be kind of putting it together. Now looking at tier 4, I'm going to start off this tier with Taysom Hill. Now, there's no guarantee he actually plays this week. He missed week 5 with, I believe, like a rib injury. He has broken ribs. For whatever reason, even though Taysom Hill doesn't seem like he plays a massive role, in the games where Taysom Hill has been out, the Saints have just looked completely incompetent on offense. I don't know if that's specifically because they don't have Taysom Hill, but it's definitely a factor. I think he's someone who's not going to have a super high weekly floor because it's not like he has a certain set number of targets at like the tight end position if you can play him there, but he's going to be involved on the ground, especially in the goal line, has a lot of touchdown upside. We saw in week 4, got into the end zone twice, and that was with him leaving in the first half. So he had 2 early touchdowns, could have had more if he stayed in there. Certainly playable, especially over these other guys who pretty much have like no floor. After Taysom Hill, I'm going to be rolling with Isaiah Likely here. Had a pretty decent week 5. It was pretty much just due to getting into the end zone twice. Not a lot of volume. After that monster week 1 game, he has just not been able to command targets. He is maxed out at 3 targets in a game after that week 1. So he's fairly touchdown or bust. But I guess you could do worse than like a touchdown or bust guy who's on an offense that's number 1 in implied points. Like, they're going to score. So if you want to make that bet, you might as well make it on a team that's, going to be scoring points, putting up touchdowns. Then I have Kyle Pitts going up against the Panthers. I expect a lot of people to overreact to Kyle Pitts' big week 5 game. I talked about him as a sell high option. I think I actually talked about both these guys, Isaiah Likely and Kyle Pitts, as sell highs. For Pitts, he did have a solid game, 7 for 88, but his role really didn't change fundamentally. Like, they attempted 58 passes. Kirk Cousins threw for over 500 yards. So yeah, 7 for 88 looks nice on 8 targets, but 8 targets out of 58 pass attempts is not good. 88 yards out of, 500 plus is not all that great. He's still only averaging 3.8 targets per game on the season. And in your normal game script where they're throwing 33 to 35 times, like, that production is just not going to be there from Kyle Pitts. So he was someone I liked coming into the year, but at this point, not super excited about him. And then the final guy in this tier is going to be Tyler Conklin going up against the Buffalo Bills. He is getting clear tight end 1 usage. The problem is just that this Jets offense has been underwhelming. He's had a couple of solid games. The usage is there. I think he'll probably be better moving forward as long as he can retain the role. But right now, my tight end 15. And then the final tier here, this is where it's getting really gross. Like, I would not feel great about these guys in my lineup. Wouldn't really feel great about a lot of these dudes, but this is getting to the point where it's really sketchy. The first guy in this tier is going to be Hunter Henry. Now, Hunter Henry has had 1 nice game, and then the rest of them have been pretty brutal fantasy-wise. I think what's interesting about him this week is with Drake May coming in, looks like he is going to get the start. I think he adds a little bit of upside to this offense, gives it a little bit of juice. But I also think Hunter Henry might be someone he's using as like a check down option, kind of like his safety blanket here in his debut. So I do think Hunter Henry could rack up some volume. I think if you're trying to get him some easy, quick looks, Hunter Henry could be that guy. Obviously, like I said, don't have an insane amount of confidence playing him, but I could see him having a decent day with Drake May at quarterback. And I do think rest of season, he's definitely looking up because like we knew what we were getting out of Jacoby Brissett and it was not fantasy relevant. Maybe Drake May comes in, plays super well, and just adds, a new element here for the Pats. Then I have Dalton Schultz going up against the Patriots. I did not like him heading into the season. I thought there were just too many mouths to feed here. That has been the case through 5 weeks. But this is an interesting spot now where Nico Collins, I think he's going to miss this game, I believe with a hamstring injury. So if Nico Collins is out, now maybe Dalton Schultz is getting bumped into like that number 3 target role. He still didn't have a great game when Tank Dell missed, but I mean, like, Nico Collins has been a monster, so that's a decent amount of production they have to replace. I think he becomes at least somewhat relevant here with Nico Collins likely out. And then the final guy is going to be Zach Ertz. He's averaging 7 PPR points per game. It's nothing crazy. I think they're probably going to have a somewhat pass-heavy game script. They're nearly, touchdown underdogs here to the Ravens. So maybe there's some volume out there. Like I said, not going to be a super high upside play, but is he playable? I guess if you're desperate. An honorable mention to Cade Otton, who could have slotted in here. Also, I guess an honorable mention to Mark Andrews, whose usage is bad, but like maybe he's getting into the end zone. Like I said, the Ravens are number 1 in implied points. So it's getting pretty gross here towards the back end of the top 18, but that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you guys enjoyed, smash that like button, subscribe, check out the other rankings videos. If I do not have any other videos out for the rest of the week, it is probably because I do not have power from this hurricane, so keep that in mind. Hopefully I'll have some other videos out, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see. Thank you all for stopping by, and I will see you in the next one.